Join us on Patreon and become part of our journey to uncover history's untold stories. Your support helps us create in-depth content, bring hidden narratives to life, and keep history alive for everyone.
The story of the Black Eufaula people of Alabama is one steeped in resilience, cultural interweaving, and a complex history that challenges the common narratives of African American and indigenous relationships in the southeastern United States. Though largely forgotten in mainstream history, the Black Eufaula community represents a crucial chapter in the history of Alabama, one that intertwines with the broader African diaspora, Native American history, and the tumultuous evolution of the American South. Eufaula, a city that straddles the Chattahoochee River in southeastern Alabama, was once a center of indigenous power, controlled by the Muscogee Creek Nation before the relentless expansion of European settlers. The city's name itself is derived from the Eufaula band of Creek Indians, who were prominent in the region long before American colonization. However, a less told but equally significant part of this history is the emergence of a distinct Black community within Eufaula, a group of people who, through a combination of enslavement, migration, and intermarriage, formed a unique cultural identity that remains a testament to survival and adaptation. Before European settlers arrived, the Muscogee Creek Confederacy dominated much of present-day Georgia and Alabama. Their society was complex, composed of autonomous towns bound together by shared cultural practices and governance structures. By the early 18th century, European powers, primarily the British, Spanish, and French, began forging relationships with Creek leaders, introducing new economic systems that would soon intertwine with the African slave trade. Africans first entered the Muscogee world in the early 1700s, primarily as slaves acquired through trade networks with European colonists. However, unlike the strict racial hierarchies that governed the plantation South, slavery among the Creeks was often more fluid. Enslaved Africans within the Creek Nation could sometimes attain freedom, integrate into the society, and even marry into Creek families. Over time, these interactions led to the development of a mixed African native population in areas like Eufaula. By the late 18th and early 19th centuries, many Black people, both free and enslaved, lived among the Creeks in what is now Alabama. Some were runaway slaves who sought refuge among the Native Americans, while others were born into Creek communities and fully assimilated into their culture. Many of these individuals and families settled in Eufaula, forming the roots of what would become the Black Eufaula community. One of the most pivotal moments in the history of the Creek Nation, and by extension, the Black Eufaula people, was the Indian Removal Act of 1830. Signed into law by President Andrew Jackson, this legislation forced the relocation of thousands of Native Americans to lands west of the Mississippi River, an event known as the Trail of Tears. The Creek people were not spared, and by the late 1830s, most were forcibly removed from Alabama to present-day Oklahoma. However, not all Creeks left. Some remained, either escaping removal by blending into local Black communities or hiding in isolated areas. Among those who stayed were Creek freedmen, formerly enslaved African Americans who had been granted freedom within the Creek Nation. These individuals and their descendants formed a resilient Black presence in Eufaula, maintaining elements of Creek culture while also developing their own distinct traditions. Following the Civil War, the Reconstruction era brought new opportunities and new challenges for the Black Eufaula community. The end of slavery theoretically meant freedom, but the rise of Black codes, segregation, and white supremacist violence made true equality elusive. Many Black Eufaulans, like other freedmen throughout the South, pursued economic independence through farming, trade, and education. During this period, Eufaula saw the emergence of Black leaders who advocated for civil rights and community empowerment. Schools, churches, and businesses flourished in Black neighborhoods, creating a self-sufficient community despite the ever-present threat of racial violence. Yet, as Reconstruction ended and the Jim Crow era took hold, the Black Eufaula people faced increasing disenfranchisement and marginalization. Despite the harsh realities of segregation, the Black Eufaula people retained their cultural distinctiveness. Oral histories passed down through generations preserve the stories of their Creek ancestry, African heritage, and struggles for justice. Many Black Eufaulians maintained traditional knowledge, including agricultural techniques, herbal medicine, and spiritual practices rooted in both African and Native American traditions. The Great Migration of the early to mid-20th century saw many Black families leave Alabama in search of better opportunities in the North and Midwest. Cities like Chicago, Detroit, and New York became new homes for Black Eufaulians, but even as they left, they carried with them the memories and customs of their homeland. Back in Eufaula, the civil rights movement brought renewed activism among Black residents. Schools were integrated, voting rights were challenged and defended, and leaders emerged to fight against systemic racism. However, the legacies of displacement and discrimination continue to shape the Black experience in Eufaula. Today, the history of the Black Eufaula people remains an underexplored chapter in American history. While efforts have been made to document the African American and Native American intersections in the South, the unique identity of Black Eufauland has yet to receive the widespread recognition it deserves. Cultural preservation initiatives, historical societies, and descendants of the Black Eufaula people continue to honor their ancestors' resilience. Events celebrating Creek African heritage, historical markers, and oral history projects have helped shine a light on this forgotten community. Yet, more work remains to be done in ensuring that their story is fully acknowledged and understood. As historians and researchers continue to uncover the layered histories of communities like Black Eufaula, a more nuanced and inclusive picture of American history emerges. The Black Eufaula people are not just a relic of the past, but a living testament to the endurance of identity, culture, and the unbreakable spirit of those who have fought for their rightful place in history.